Can't talk
We're
too much
live.
about.
Well, that's good. Get this
I see a
whole
stream.
this video and audio thing down someday.
How long has it been, John? Like,
Since 2008, it's been a while.
I believe in you. It's easier than printers now, at least. Like, I remember days like trying to get a webcam to work was so rough. Like trying to go using my PS5, no, my PS2 webcam on my computer. That was a fun
Wait,
day.
you had a PS2, like the port, like the serial port webcam, like that was good enough?
I don't remember. I want to say it was USB.
Yeah,
I
okay,
don't.
I believe that one.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
and
I'm in on that
I
one.
it was for one of one of the videos where they actually tracked you and you could play games. And
Oh.
then we never played it. And then I was like, I wonder if this can work on a computer, and slowly went
What
down the rabbit
was
hole. And
what was the Microsoft like video chat program, the very first one called? Dang it, what was it called? No, I'm gonna look it up. I remember using that. It was bad. It was
I
bad.
used some
It was like Windows
back end.
95 bad. Like that's we're going back there.
I'm not gonna mention the websites I was on. It was not the best.
At those times,
Yeah.
no.
This was in
Oh
the golden
man.
times of the internet, right? This is
I mean,
stuff was still dark.
stuff was still dark. All I was on was AOL in the dial-up days. Like this was like before the transition to like the full internet, you know? And there's yeah, it was debauchery.
I still maintain the internet was better back then.
You
It was. And you
had
just,
one ISP.
The
and you
best
just
of
had like
times, worst
so many
times.
niche stuff that like
Um,
Me,
you just can't find anything like that anymore. I mean, there
I
were like
remember,
I remember thorough blueprints of like very out there Star Trek shot ships. And it's like
yeah,
nowadays it's like, well, if you want that, like there's gonna be like a, 9.99 a month subscription, and maybe for a premium you can get access to the blueprints on this one ship that appeared from this episode. It's like that was all free back in 95. Somebody with way too much time and like a CAD program.
yeah. Well, the internet sucks.
yeah,
That's
it all went
is that the
downhill.
episode? Is that the
so
Shit, you
I
summed it
will admit,
up.
I was reading the news and I didn't realize I had opened the AI part, and I'm just going through
Oh,
it. I'm like, why is every article just AI? Like, I'm like, I want to talk about something other than that. And then I'm
there's
like, oh,
nothing.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
There-
it.
yeah.
It's just all emojis and EM dashes from here, my friend.
Man.
Nah,
And
there's people
bullet points
faking
of
things.
three every it's like, why is there always three bullet points and everything?
That
Oh,
that's a good. I'm gonna have to go change my slides. I'll be right back.
yes.
Yeah.
All my slides ruined.
We can just trade slides, Wade. I'm sure we both probably
Oh,
almost wrote the other topic.
we could.
We probably could.
That would be pretty good.
That'd be really funny.
It's one of those, like when you're doing cons, like slide roulette can be one of the best things at the con, and it can also be some of the worst that happens. Bruce, I think it was at ShmooCon years ago. Kevin Johnson got women of the TSA, and it was just nothing but like the X-ray pictures. And it
Man.
was so epic. He did such a great job of that. And there were so many people that were so offended. It was, but most of the time, what happens at a con is someone just looks at the slide and they're like, uh, uh, uh.
Yeah, I mean, credit for at least making it work. Like, even if it is,
Yeah.
you didn't make everybody in the room happy, you at least did something more than, stare at it.
Yeah.
Never say die.
Never say die.
Yeah, it's a real art to, I mean, honestly, like I've seen, 90% of them have just been awful. And you got to go in, like I go into them with like a game plan, like whatever. It's just like a media training. Like you answer the question that you wish they'd asked you.
Yeah.
You give a slide presentation you wish they had given you, and then you just tie it in and it works out. And that's better than trying to work the slides.
We did one
Yeah.
on B-Sides Charm where it was all AI generated slides. This was, I want to say it was 4 years ago.
Oh, that
And
was
the
a
AI
good AI
generated
generation right there.
the AI generated slides were flat out terrifying. Like they were
Yeah.
putting in prompts to come up the slides, like multiple reasons why all humans should be exterminated.
Yeah.
And AI was generating the pictures with the justification. It was like,
Uh,
oh, bad. Now we got guardrails.
Nice.
All
now we
right.
have guardrails.
All right, everybody. Let's get started. Ryan, bring out the crooked finger. Let's get rolling.
Rocket.
All right, here we go.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Talking About News. My name is John Strand and I'm joined by a whole bunch of other people. This is in Zoom, so the coordination is a little bit different for us because we're trying a new platform here. But we have a number of different stories from federal experts officially declaring that Microsoft's cloud is a pile of shit. AI companies training in classified environments, what can go wrong? BHIS finds all kinds of like AI chatbot data exposed. We have Intune issues, more CISA stuff. I'm going to rant on CISA and their whatever, their commonly exploited database. We've got a lot going on. Let's go ahead and get started. Ralph, do you want to pick the first story, sir?
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, because you were talking, you had one that you thought was pretty good. So do you got one? Because there's a lot here. So I'm kicking it over to you, man. What do you want to start with?
Ooh, let's do you actually want to start off with your own like BHIS little
Let's
series?
talk about oh, okay. You want to talk about Jeremiah, the
Yeah.
Sears thing? So yeah, basically Jeremiah spends a lot of time. So Jeremiah Fowler has been with us for a little while at BHIS, and he spends a lot of time specifically going through and trying to identify exposed like databases and things that might be useful in what's going on in Ukraine and Russia because he has family ties there. And he stumbles across some pretty terrifying things every once in a while. And this one, he was able to identify a bunch of phone calls where the audio was recorded and was exposed to the open internet. And then he started, kind of working with that. And this one kind of scares me. The whole, like, whenever you're calling in and it's like, this will be shared for quality assurance purposes and also marketing of a security firm at some point in the future.
I was gonna say the rest of the internet will be shared with rest of
Will
internet.
be shared. It's
Perfect.
like they say, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, isn't it?
Unless it's on the internet.
And shared with everybody. I just, and it's like this, Jeremiah Fowler was surprised. It takes a lot to surprise Jeremiah these days. But is this really all that much of a surprise? I mean, the type of data it is, the chatbot data, I guess it's kind of novel in that respect, but what is it? It's 1.4 million audio files. And then the plain text transcripts
Was
were
this
basically
was
out there as
was
well.
this so it looked like just reading between the lines here, this was a web interface that went to or a CVS file or CSV file, excuse me. And in that file were a bunch of URLs for audio files and
Mhm.
chat history, right?
Mhm. And let's not forget the most surprising thing about this is apparently Sears still exists.
Yeah, no, there's that. There was also the ambient audio right there. That
Yeah, the
Yeah,
ambient
that was
audio
pretty
was
wild.
there.
you thought the call had ended, and then you're still
I don't.
something is
So
still being
was it
recorded.
Yeah, okay.
hold on, was it a
Alex,
phone call or was it over like a web browser?
no,
Yeah.
it's a phone call. You could literally hear
Okay.
the ambient conversations. And I don't know if you all have noticed this, but there's a certain percentage of people that when you're talking to them on the phone, they expect you to hang up.
Oh yeah, that's my
And
wife.
if you just don't hang up, they like set their phone down and walk away. I don't know what percentage of the population that actually is, but apparently there was a handful of those like that where they just stopped and they expected the Sears chatbot to hang
So
up.
I
What
did
a
think
life to live.
I know, right?
I did think it was funny though, because like the one thing it did say in the article was that like we're reading into some of these conversations, the bot would be or the AI would be like, "I totally can help you. You don't need an agent," and then fail at helping them, and then say, "We're going to send you to an agent."
And people got increasingly more angry and aggressive with Samantha
Yes.
saying, I want to talk to a person.
Yeah, oh
I
my
need a technician.
How much data was this? Like, it doesn't say in size.
But you would have had to download
It's
everything.
3.7 million chat logs and 1.4 million audio files.
which is a lot. Like, I'm just surprised that you just let storage overflow that much. Is that just me? No, like
You don't
Sears is
never
probably
delete
hurting for
from
money.
For a real long time there.
Sears is hurting for money for sure. Like no one's watching those storage fees.
They're just in cold storage.
Well, obviously nobody's watching anything over there because it's locked down. Okay, like nobody cares. Like they set it up, they sold it, and they were like, okay, we'll just forget about it, I guess, right? I mean, that's
Well,
what I'm
in that,
saying.
but okay, so that gets into a larger issue. Like, I talked about this, I think, in previous episodes, talking about the coming SaaS apocalypse, right? Because anybody can develop well, not anybody, but any medium to large size organization can look at the SaaS products that they have and they can very quickly develop their own products utilizing AI, and many times poorly. So now instead of somebody buying and like everybody kind of coalescing around one SaaS offering, now all of a sudden people can just start creating their own crap SaaS offerings, and these things don't die. They don't go away. They don't get patched. They don't get updated. They don't get looked at. And that's one of the reasons why when we're looking at computer security, I hate a lot of people in security like, oh, AI, it's the end of security. I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind? It's just moving the technology profile a little bit more. And there's going to be a lot more of stuff like this because there's a bunch of custom software underneath this that was just absolute garbage.
I mean, essentially, what you're saying is from a high level, you can develop quickly, and you're just
Yes.
going for your customer. Not to say you should or shouldn't, right? Just that you like most of these founders have an idea, and they're like, let's build this as fast as possible, and then they can build it really fast, and then they get it out there, they get those customers, but security is kind of like, well, what?
And that's like a trend with all the AI providers right now, is they all have some product that's brand new and very expensive that does security audits and security reviews. And like Anthropic came out with one recently, and it was like atrociously expensive per like PR review because they're running so many different agents on it. But at a certain point, like you can build anything. Like we talked about that some last week, but also
should you?
like, should you? And I guess it depends. Like, is it more costly to get breached or more costly to buy this tool? Like, which one is worse?
Wow, that's a good
And I
point.
want to bring Bruce in on this, right? Because I remember years and years ago, there was lots of conversations, especially in the early web days, where it was like, no, anytime you get an urge to say, I'm going to redevelop an entire package from scratch and not go with an open source product, you were told, don't do that. Lay down on the ground and then take a breath and wait for the urge to pass. Now, all of a sudden, those guardrails are gone, man. Like it's just flat out so fast that people can do this. And I don't think we can fight it. And also, going back to what Hayden was just talking about, I don't know if the code that for like traditional companies, SaaS companies that are out there is going to be that much better than the crap that people are going to produce anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the unfortunate reality is like, software development has not evolved all that far in the last 25 years when it comes to software assurance and code quality. I will say, like, I think what's interesting is like, if you can vibe code an app, you can use that same technology to like do the assessment for you and try to help you do it more securely and that kind of thing. And the models have been trained reasonably well against that stuff. And I've seen, at least with the people I've talked to, pretty good results, but you have to be thinking like, I have to care about not just the functionality, but the security of the thing. And this is where like the 80-20 rule kicks in. Like people are like, I got 80% there. It works. I'll ship it. We'll see what happens. And that 20% is the part that's going to kill you.
Right. And that's the big crossover. Like there's probably not a huge crossover between the people that are like, I'm going to spin up Claude Code and build an app real quick, and the people that actually want to do security that may not be instant and very quick either.
Well,
like that's not a big diagram.
That's me. That's me. No.
But I'm going to say that security is still hard. And the reason why I'm going to say that is like an app is just not its code. It's the ecosystem that it's running in, right? Like a lot of these vulnerabilities are more like infrastructure style vulnerabilities that come back and bite someone in the ass. And or like you can have your code is really good, but if you're shuttling that data that is produced off to somebody else's platform, we see time and time again where third parties are getting breached, right? And the other point about it is let's say you code something fantastic today, right? It's done perfect. And you lock it into a time box. And then you open it up 2 years from now. it's going to be hideously insecure. And it comes back to the hygiene associated with security is still very much missing, right? We're still back into it works. This developer that's a cousin of mine put this thing together. It looks great. Let's get it out there. You're still not part of the hygiene and making sure that the libraries are up to date and any new security vulnerabilities and infrastructure don't have vulnerabilities that are showing up on it as well. It's just, like I said, people can make bad decisions faster now than they ever could before.
Yeah,
I think, I mean, there's more to review them.
Yeah. And I think there's the non-functional requirements of the system have always been the ephemeral thing that requires like, skill and experience and whatever to figure out. And the functional requirements are like, I made an address book, people can build that and understand it. But performance and security and scalability, that still requires expertise. Even if the AI is writing the code, like it requires the guidance from someone who's been there and done that before to guide the system to the right place.
Yep. All right, I got another story. This one cracked me up, and there's a couple of really painful stories this week. I just shared it in chat, Ryan. This one is federal cyber experts called Microsoft's cloud a pile of shit and approved it anyway. The reason why this hurts for me is I've been part of these conversations in the government, and what they're predominantly talking about is they kept asking Microsoft questions like, how does end-to-end encryption work? Is it actually end-to-end encrypted? Can you prove it? Can we get some documentation? Can we see how it's like works on the back end? And Microsoft could not answer a whole bunch of these different questions and refused to answer these questions, and then provided documentation that was subpar, and it was just bad all the way through. And having worked on the government side in DoD, I've seen this again and again and again, where you sit down and you ask a very large vendor. Back in the day, it was Oracle for me. Oracle was hideous to work with on this stuff. It was like, screw you, we're Oracle. And they just refused to answer any questions. And then once again, no one gets fired for hiring IBM. No one gets fired for hiring Oracle. No one gets fired for hiring Microsoft. And it went through. And I'd like to get you guys' take on this particular story and like your experience on this as well.
I have a quick point I want to make is the headline is very sensational. It is in like the first couple paragraphs where it mentions like when they call it a piece of shit, they're talking about the documentation that Microsoft provided them and the answers to their questions. Yeah. I will withhold my opinion on on Microsoft's platform, but that is the part they're calling a piece of shit.
I feel like, all right, we talked about the two things about programming that are difficult, right? Like the design and then scalability. So I think, and I believe that whenever you get at the scale of Microsoft, doing security at scale gets really difficult as well, right? Especially when we're dealing with tons of data. And at the end of the day, they're looking at how do we make money. So they're going to take shortcuts to allow that to happen while, having enough security, like enough is, at scale. And that's probably what we're looking at here too, with the documentation, not having all of this stuff, different groups and people all working on it. And it kind of got broken into pieces. So,
yeah. It's good to hear that even Microsoft has problems doing their diagrams and everything too.
Microsoft is a 50-year-old company.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I saw it the other day and
they wrote Visio.
It's crazy. They wrote Visio. And the tail that they have and they brought with them to the cloud is really long, and I think it shows in when you compare them to the other large cloud infrastructure providers, like you can see the age in the system from the documentation all the way down to the technology.
Well, the other thing too is that most people don't probably go through the whole process of the FedRAMP stuff, right? So like they spend all this time building out all of this like essentially documentation and like how it should be secured. Like Microsoft probably didn't do that when they built this. They were like, just trying to build it and then eventually got to that point. And now that they get all this documentation, they're like, oh shit, I didn't think I was going to ask these questions.
I think I've been at a couple companies now that have tried to go FedRAMP, and the key word there is tried.
Yeah.
Right. Like from my experience from smaller companies, it is a difficult thing. So to hear that, like, it's not surprised that Microsoft got passed on it, but I'm sure like the bar is high. I guess, John, you would know that more than because I never actually got to work at a FedRAMP organization.
But I have a friend that's trying to just develop. He's a very small shop. It's basically him and a couple of other developers. And they're trying to do like all the stuff FedRAMP compliant, and it's conflicting. Will break a lot of the stuff that's in the cloud. And he's pretty much given up on it, but it's become like a pet project of his. He's like, nah, I'm gonna get this. But his takeaway from that is anybody comes to you and says that they're completely FedRAMP compliant, they're liars. And that's how they got FedRAMP compliant in the first place.
Oh,
So,
I just remember doing the STIG hardening guides for systems, right? And like the reason I bring this up is because if you go through and apply everything in the guide, the thing just won't work anymore.
yeah. So they had something a long time ago called the disc of gold discs.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you put in this ISO, you burnt this ISO to a CD, and then you ran the disc of gold disc for Microsoft or whatever, Linux or Solaris. And it literally had this wonderful button that was like apply STIGs. And if you click that button, it would apply all the configuration. You could not log into it.
The
And I
computer
was on a
wouldn't work.
project. I'm going to talk about it's kind of weird, but the next story that's going to be coming up, training classified data and
Yeah,
classified data in AI. And we had a DA, it was a designated programming authority, and a PA, programming authority rep, come in, and they basically sat down at all the systems. And I went through and I tuned all of this crap, made sure that the system still worked. And
sure.
these two guys showed up and they just hit that button and they nuked our systems, right? Like nothing worked. And it turned
Yeah.
into this huge thing. It's like,
Yes.
I got blamed initially. Well, he didn't secure it hard enough. I'm like, it doesn't matter. At default, out of the box, it bricks it. And I had to demonstrate that. But
Yes. And then
you
you have to
see,
write
Well,
justification.
and I remember on those that you also had like some of the supplemental test plans, and
Mhm.
that's where it seems so relevant here that it's like it's difficult to be that momentum against what like just the standard is, because even with the test
Mhm.
plans, would you say, hey, here's this thing that is not secure, like it's a new thing, it's an emerging thing, it's a problem here. I can show you on the server that we don't have this secured. If it wasn't part of the current test plan, they're like, don't worry about it. It's
Yeah. But that was
yeah,
all
and so
intentional
and
because
so
you'd see,
and then lo and behold, like 4 months later, they're like, this is now part of the current test plan. Drop everything and fix this. And you're like, that's the thing that I talked about four
yeah.
months ago that I said, hey,
Mhm.
as long as we're in here, why don't we patch this thing? And it's like, no,
Well,
it's
Mm.
don't be an instigator, Alex. Like just
well,
go with the flow.
and
And
Bruce,
that's coming back around this time with hey, this stuff is, like, they said, it's a pile of shit. And it's like, well, don't be an instigator. Just sign off on it. Don't be the first person to push against the norm. The norm is just accept this, go with it. Um,
well, and kind of like the piggybacking on top of what Bruce said, like Microsoft has this huge amount of baggage it carries with it, and a lot of it doesn't even know. One of my favorite stories is the people that were coming up with Samba years ago. They were trying to come up with something that would be compatible and communicating with Windows systems, and they had no idea how like Landman was working, right? And they had no idea how NetNTL MV2 worked and all of this different stuff. And they were talking about going through like a memory dump of a Windows computer system because they were trying to find a key that Landman was using. Basically, they were trying to figure out how it was using DES to encrypt. It was using your password as a password to encrypt a string, and they didn't know what that string was. And they're going through memory, and they saw KGS exclamation point at pound dollar sign, and they're like, is that it? And it turns out it was, and rumor has it that was the initials, KSG or KGS, was the initials of the guy that wrote that protocol at Microsoft. And the point was, no one knew, and they think that that was his password, that he literally hard coded it. So it used your password to encrypt that string using DES for Landman. With NetNTL MV2, going back to that again, there's a whole bunch of fields in that protocol. No one knows what the hell they do. And I was talking to some Microsoft engineers. They're like, look, if we have to figure out how something works of ours, we go look at other people's documentation that has reverse engineered it because we don't have that documentation in play. And going back, Alex, we talk about, things being ignored. I keep telling people all the time, in every security standard that exists on the face of the planet, right? I don't care if you're working CIS or you're working NIST, they say absolutely no clear text authentication protocols. And Microsoft, like NetNTL MV2, is a clear text authentication protocol. If you look at how it works and how it actually runs, you have a challenge, an 8-byte challenge that is sent in the clear. The response with a password hash is sent, and it uses the password hash as the verification mechanism. All of that is reversible. All of that is sniffable. But it's one of those things where you have to be like, we're just going to pretend everything's okay because of the legacy technologies. Because if you start trying to peel back that and trying to fix it, you're basically going to shut down Windows completely from a lot of these things. So this is tough with legacy technologies that has this huge amount of baggage that they continue to carry forward.
So Microsoft is junk, but we have a solution. We have a solution, and that is to use AI for classified data.
Yep,
I
that's
thought you were
the
going to
next
say
story.
just
Oh my
lie.
God.
I thought you were going to say just lie on all.
Which
Hey,
article
Ralph,
was he going
Ralph,
to?
I know, right?
I think my word count on this episode is already exceedingly high. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so the Pentagon is planning for AI companies to train on classified data, right? So that's the article. And the wild part about this is classified. So supposedly they're supposed to be using classified data centers for this, obviously, to house this classified data, and then they're going to train on it, right? That's the big idea. But it seems like the beginning of Terminator. I just feel like that was like the whole thing. They gave the machines like access to the military and like all of this information. I know I'm kind of joking around that, but I guess obviously they have like a Claude Gov and like other things to isolate these things out. But yeah, what do you guys think about this, or even the idea of classified information with AI, right?
I think there's a real challenge around access control. I mean, you kind of ignore the moral issues of like what they could do with it and whatever for a second. But classified information access is really geared around need to know, and it is far and away the most complex tagging and kind of compartmentalized universe that's ever been created by mankind. And at the end of the day, like these LLMs have shown that if you ask them the right questions, they will regurgitate the training material that they were given, right? And so I think that there's this question of like, how do you protect need to know of classified information if you can just ask the LLM the right thing? How are they going to actually constrain that? I don't know that there's at least publicly been a lot of discussion around how they're going to enforce that.
There's a couple of products out there that right now take all your data, all your notes, and all your information, and then supposedly give it back to you if you have access to it. Think about it as a like one-stop shop for your entire org. I have seen it both work and, of course, not work, and give notes on a particular document that a user wasn't supposed to have access to. But then also same thing with like Slack messages or group channels and stuff like that. I'm kind of interested to see what they do with the security, because I think if they can implement some like exactly access control policy, it would trickle down to the public sector. It would be pretty cool.
So just to like level the field, right? Before we get into like the government has been doing AI kind of adjacent stuff with classified information, right? Like just databases full of this to try to analyze as fast as they can. So like none of this is necessarily new. I think the new part is just how good these models are and the fact that they weren't developed specifically in the government, right? So
and it has to be like, well, maybe I'm giving them too much credit. I was going to say it has to be like a calculated risk of some of our theoretically most valuable information is going to be classified in some way. And we want to use these models for warfare. So like if we can give them access to this to train on it, whatever bad could come out of that is theoretically offset by the good we can do with a model that knows how to, overthrow governments and things. It's just, I can understand the reasoning behind it. It doesn't mean that I don't necessarily think it's a good idea.
I think it's a fantastic idea. And I know that seems weird because I'm usually uber paranoid. Chad just tilted his head. Let me explain why I think it's a fantastic idea. Now, there's specific utilization of what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about let's have it make decisions to kill people. Once again, I'm with Anthropic on that. We should not have AI making those decisions.
It would definitely not kill itself.
But I want you guys to think of a scenario. Let's say that there is an arms sale for X number of AK-47s from an African nation buying it from North Korea, right? And I want you to look at all the different types of ints to basically let us know, like the intelligence sources that you would get, right? You would have human, right? You would have human intelligence saying that this deal is going down. You would have SIGINT, where you'd be able to identify and track, what is the shipping within North Korea going to this specific ship that's going to be moving across the ocean and tracking that ship. You would have all kinds of different like GeoInt where you can actually see that. You would also have financial intelligence, and that financial intelligence can be part of the banking system, and it can also be cryptocurrency transfer, where you know roughly this is how much this many AK-47s costs. We've seen this transfer and this much Bitcoin from this wallet to this wallet correlating to all of this stuff. Now, if you take all of those different things, right, in hindsight, when you see that, you can pull all of those data sources together and you can see it. And a really good example of this is go back and read the report on September 11th with kind of tracks like CIA had a lot of data, but it wasn't their job. And who would they give it to? How would they give it to? What would be all of that? Now, all those ints that I talked about, when you're tracking SIGINT, you're tracking signals from literally billions of devices, right? When you're tracking financial information, whether or not you have warrants is a whole nother series of conversations we can get into. You're tracking a lot of data, right? So AI is really good at these types of problems, right? I want you to be able to identify patterns like these following or 15 patterns we can train it on so it can start trying to identify these type of geopolitical and these types of criminal underground and these types of military actions. And that's fantastic. And that's specifically the area that I was working in. And it was literally just thousands of people working their asses off. And they were only seeing one little tiny piece of the puzzle. Like they would say, we just saw a massive amount of Bitcoin go from this wallet to this wallet. What the hell is this associated with? And if you had the financial side of it, you could say, well, that almost exact amount was transferred from this bank account in Switzerland to this bank account in Switzerland. Now we've tied those bank accounts to a Bitcoin transfer. There's a lot to this that is very powerful. And I can totally see how this would work for something like that. Now, where it gets really scary is like Bruce was talking about, and Hayden had talked about it, right? How the hell are you going to secure AI data whenever it drops in and you have multiple classifications of data? You're going to have to, specifically what Bruce was talking about would be like SAPSAR programs, special access programs that you have to be read in to get the data associated with that. And even whenever you're moving between the towers, you're moving between the CIA, the NSA, the NRO, they can all have data classified at top secret and maybe SCI. That doesn't mean that anybody can read that SCI data. So that's where this gets really dicey. So there's applications where this makes absolute sense. And there's applications where I'm like, well, this is some of the most terrifying shit I've ever seen.
The agents asking each other.
With all the assembly of all that data and it's looking at all the information, the question still is, or one of the questions is, how did you control for all like the inherent biases and all of like this historical data, then make sure that it doesn't hallucinate things or it's not like a sycophant being like, well, I looked at all this and I'm not able to give you the answer that you want, but based on our history as a country and the things that we like to do when we can't find the answer, or like you referenced like September 11th, they would probably put a lot of bias into some outcomes there as well. Is it going to look at the same things going on and going, in the absence of anything definitive, I'm just going to kind of take a guess that's going to make my handlers happy, and here you go. This person is good for it. There's an arms deal going on. I'm going to kind of make some stuff up that there's so much data that who's going to go through and double check your work.
I have no problem with that, Alex, too. And the reason why I don't have a problem with that is that already exists today. When you're working in these intelligence places, you constantly have humans that bring those biases to the table. Where I agree with you 110% is you can hold somebody accountable. When it's AI, you don't have that level.
You can't check their work. Like a person, they can go, these are the things that I looked at, these are the conclusion. You go, oh, right here, this is where you made your error, versus AI is going to be like, trust me, because who's going through all those 10 decades worth of, it's going to take you 10 years for a person to double check it.
Or you have another AI that fact checks that first one and then just like,
oh, there we go.
And what then happens if they disagree? Because AIs love to disagree. If
they will fight with each other.
Like,
oh my God.
Take something from ChatGPT and have Anthropic look at it, they're going to be like, no, just ChatGPT.
Grok makes the final call.
Yeah, Grok makes the final
always
call.
gets the final call. Like the tiebreaker, like I'm definitely blowing something up.
Might
Grok's
as
like,
well
launch the
just-
strike, launch it, go.
Yeah, just jump to Skynet, just launch a strike. Yep.
So
Speaking of strikes, so CISA, I guess, is urging endpoint management systems for hardening after the cybersecurity attack, obviously against U.S. organizations. Right. I think this is related to
The Stryker.
the old,
Striker,
yeah, Stryker and the old Microsoft Intune. I mean, you know, that I definitely get the alert here, right? I think it's just more, you know, more of a general thing to be like,
Yeah,
hey, we're kind of
exactly.
under cyber attack for our organizations across America, right? But yeah, endpoint management systems are the fun way to gain big access.
That was
I
like a
did
high
see-
profile attack in a lot of ways. And I don't think they've really, I haven't been able to find anybody talk about how it happened because we talked about that with some of our SOC customers last week. And so all we could really do is talk about how that group normally gains access to an organization. And we could give recommendations around that. But ultimately, like the only thing we can talk about is how to make sure that they don't use your Intune to destroy your own environment.
Right. Looking at the steps that it would take in order to do this and get to that level of access, as well as then what does it look like when one of these does fire, or like when a large amount of them all of a sudden start getting wiped, right? I've seen several conversations around that, and like pretty much what are the triggers up to this final point, which for me, that's a destruction of data technique, right? Which is honestly like by the time you're detecting that, you're kind of screwed.
I mean, I've done this on multiple red teams where as soon as you get access to a privileged account in Azure, you go see what if they have Intune access or if they're using Intune. That's a great way to spread quickly into the internal environment. So, I mean, it's been known for a while. Like you said, though, how did they get that level of access so quickly? I think that's kind of like the shock piece.
I think the reason why we don't have that answer is I don't think they have the data.
Yeah.
It's one of those
They
things
didn't
where,
subscribe to the plus
yeah, the logs that you need from Microsoft.
Yeah.
And this is a theme, right? Like you can see how companies respond to breaches, and they're like, "We were compromised. This is how it came through." Usually, they say, "We've brought on Mandiant or some other high."
We brought on Google to secure Microsoft. What a
but they have like the flow of how it happened, and that what are they doing to deal with it? A lot of the companies where they're just not saying how it happened, it's scarier to me because that means they do not know.
Thinking about like the last couple of big name breaches, I haven't seen one of those reports in a while.
True.
Right? Like full breakdown of TTPs and what went through, unless you're a customer of them and you're like screaming at them. That's the only time I've actually, besides maybe some of the Salesforce stuff that happened.
Yeah.
Like I was gonna say, I just want to like almost theorize, like put on the tinfoil hat and say like, oh, they're trying to keep things secret. Like this is something that we also want to use too. And I doubt that's the case, but that's a good point, Wade, is that's becoming like a more recent trend with a couple of these big ones where it's like, how did this happen? We don't know, but here's everything that happened afterwards. Like you missed the most important part.
Take your credit monitoring and go away.
Exactly. Right. You get 1 year of credit monitoring.
I should have started a credit monitoring company because they always win.
They always win. They always get paid, right? They always get paid. I was also going to bring up the other thing, not to roll back to AIs, but I think this does go to hardening, which is passwords, right? So we had another article in here about AI generated passwords. I guess people are using their assistant to ask for passwords, right?
Oh, no.
Yes, yeah. And so if you don't know, the magic of AI systems or LLMs is pattern recognition, okay? They inherently create patterns, right? And when you have a password, you want it to be random as possible, right? So how can I say this? Don't do that.
I think it's fine. I disagree. I'm being very contrarian today. I think it's fine if you call up Sears and you ask its chatbot, what does it recommend?
That's the best way.
Well, it's got plenty of data to pull from.
It's got so much data.
If you asked it for a 64-digit character password, right? Like,
yes.
In the end game, unless they get access to your chat logs, does that matter?
Will never happen. Never happened.
But we also convinced everybody that like passphrases are the vibe. So if we're doing shitty poetry the whole time, like
You got MFA installed. You're cool, bro.
Yo, I
are you
slopped my
ragging on
password.
emo? Are you ragging on emo password security?
listen, I don't think generative models are good at emo lyrics yet.
Not yet. Emo's not dead. Emo's
Yeah.
not dead.
So I think the bigger thing is don't try to use LLM to like generate secure stuff for you. You know, I didn't know that had to be said, but I guess
Yeah.
it does. And so don't do it.
The bar
the
is like
password
here.
manager.
Password managers are so easy now. Like you go to log in and it's like, do you want us to log in and create your account and save everything for you? And then
Yes.
like it'll probably
You don't
mail you
ever
like
have
a
to think
cookie
of it
when you're
again.
done. Yeah, it's like as long as you pay us $30 a year, we'll like show up at your house and give you a hug at the end of it all. Like it's the bar's there. Asking Chat GPT
what?
like 5.1 for your password or whatever.
You know what? I'm just going to say this is another good idea because when I work with my family and they get breached or family and friends, and it's almost always the same thing. They're like, "Oh, my PayPal got hacked." I'm like, "Well, did you have two-factor on?" No, no. I know you told us about that at Thanksgiving. You went on this long thing
You
about
wouldn't let it
two-factor,
go,
and I
but
didn't do that. And I'm like, "What was your password?" Well, it was my name my dog. It was I can't help but think that ChatGPT would give you better password options.
That's
Right, right.
that's true.
So
That's true. Oh man.
I haven't bitched about that in a long time on this show. I haven't had any. I think my family members now know not to go to me. They're like, "You breach. You know what you
Didn't-
need to do? You need to talk to John." They're like, "Hell no.
hell
Don't
no,
talk to
I'm
John.
done. I'm
Do
out.
not tell him.
They can have all my money. I don't want to go through
I
that.
don't want to talk to
Sound
John.
like-
Last time I
about
told him, he
this
talked about it
anymore."
on his podcast.
The judgy asshole. Yeah, he went through and explained everything about how I didn't listen to
Didn't
any-
one of
my
like
dog's name,
the
too.
regulatory people change their password? Who is the one people you always hit on for always having a short password?
Oh, goddamn
requirements?
PCI.
Didn't they change it?
They did, but I think they went to like 12 characters instead. For those of
A
you
little
that
bit
don't
better.
know, this has been one of the things I've been ranting against for a long time. It was like up until like last year that PCI finally upped their password complexity requirements from 7 characters to, I think they did it to 12 characters, which is still bad, right? And the reason why I hate this so much is I think Ralph was on a pen test when he was still at BHIS where we cracked like 90% of their passwords. And they were like, well, that can't be a finding. And we're like, why can't that be a critical finding? Like, well, because we're in compliant with PCI. I'm like, you don't understand. It's just nerve wracking. And then I started calling it out. And then I literally had people that would contact me and be like, dude, you better not start beef with PCI. Those people will destroy your life. I'm like, look, there's the PCI mafia and computer security. Like, I'm not that worried about that. But they finally updated. I don't even know. Ralph, you got me on this tangent, so screw you.
Oh no, I didn't get you on
I'm
that.
glad it. Yeah, it was Ralph. It was Ralph.
It was not me.
It
Oh, was
wasn't
it
the person
Wade?
who
It
works
was
at a
Wade.
password
Okay.
company.
It wasn't
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
One
yeah.
Password himself over there.
Fucking somebody else just mentioned the OSI model and completely sent me into order, right? I hate it. And this, I'm gonna get. So the next story I want to talk about, I just put this in. I I hate this, and I want to. Am I overthinking this? I hate the commonly exploited vulnerabilities from CISA. I just, it makes me so mad because you have a whole bunch of organizations out there that don't patch shit unless it shows up on CISA's commonly exploited vulnerabilities. And I think it's a few hundred right now. Like there's literally probably, I think maybe we have a million I don't even know what Tenable and Qualys and all these tools, how many vulnerabilities they're scanning for, but it's got to be hundreds of thousands, right? And the attackers are going to exploit any of them that show up in your environment. They're not going to be like, oh, well, it's not on the commonly exploited vulnerabilities, so we're not going to exploit that, Dimitri. It just makes me mad because there's so many organizations that are looking to meet the minimum, and this is creating yet another minimum for them to meet. And I want to know, am I off base on this? I don't know. Yeah.
I think we've gone over this before where we just need to have some company who just writes about vulnerabilities and then gets them to go viral. And then you just point at that article and be like, hey, look at this vulnerabilities being like, submit a vulnerability here so we can write about it. So your company will see this article and then patch it. But I agree with you. Like this list, like, I've dealt with it too. And as like an Intel side of it, right? I would then pivot and find other people writing articles or doing something. If it's not on this list, be like, hey, here's 7 other things. Just because it's not on CISA's list doesn't mean it's not out.
Screw it. Let's vibe code this app. Let's start a startup right now. We're going to start this company where you pay us money, right? And then if you want something patched, you come to us and you say, hey, I need an article saying that this is actively being exploited by the Russians and the Chinese. I needed to hit these following points to get management to agree, and then we will write that article. And
no, AI will write that article.
Oh yeah,
Hayden and I wrote the bot to make whatever company we
automated,
talk about.
all of
but
it.
it was on Restream. That was the thing. We had Restream plugged in. Now Hayden and I have to rewrite the bot for Zoom because we're doing it on Zoom today.
And we're SOC 2 compliant. I promise.
And it's gonna post it. It's gonna post it to like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn,
everywhere.
It's gonna have like influencers and Reddit. So it looks like it's a big deal.
Well, so if I could interject, I think the one thing to keep in mind with CISA, not to defend them necessarily, but I mean their mission is protection of federal government assets and critical infrastructure and that kind of thing. And there's been a historic gap in the federal government around who's there to help the private sector and who's tracking it and whatever. And there's ISACs for kind of designated critical infrastructure verticals and that kind of thing. But in general, like we look at CISA be like, come on, be better, and you poke it with a stick. But the reality is like they're first and foremost trying to protect federal agencies and just telling them like these kevs are like, you got to do this thing by this date, and that's why they issue it. And then private industry has been like, oh, we'll use that too. But it's a terrible barometer, to your point, for private industry, because attackers they're gonna hack, right? Criminals are gonna crime, and they're gonna figure out the best way to do it. CISA is, I mean, there is no federal agency that has the edict to protect the citizenry and the businesses at large.
All right, I got it. So we pull a card out of the Better Business Bureau and we become the private sector cybersecurity bureau, where people think we are a government, but we're really not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, so and for the CISA Kev, like it depends on like what the capacity is of the organization. So I know we look at it from a lot of the organizations that have the capacity to do a lot of patching, and then they go, we're only going to patch like the CISA Kev stuff. But there are a lot of organizations, and I do this as like a volunteer for the Wisconsin Cyber Response Team. We help out a lot of like school districts, local libraries, stuff like that they do not have a huge amount of staff. They have a phishing incident. You have to explain a lot of the basics to them. CISA Kev is going to be the same type of thing where you go, okay, where do you start with the patching? You got to start somewhere because you don't have the capacity to do a lot of patching. But yeah, we look at it from the viewpoint that, you're, billion-dollar company that's just looking at the CISA Kevs and going, just patch those. That's bad. But
also government agencies when we're testing, like once again, some of the stupid conversations we've had, and once again, I don't know why anyone does business with BHIS sometimes, where we have these conversations. Chad's going to take that, he's going to cut it, and that's going to be an advertisement.
That'll be a t-shirt.
Right? It's going to be a t-shirt. But, with these federal agencies, once again, they're like, yeah, you exploited that, but it wasn't in the Kev. So we don't have to patch it. And I'm like, that's not what its point was, right? Like, and these are not conversations that happen a lot, but they do happen. And I don't know how we push past that, right? How do we get people to stop constantly looking for the absolute minimum? Or do we just let nature take its course? Is it nature. Like, you know what, whatever, hackers will show you the error of your ways in a matter of time. It's just fine to let that happen naturally.
No, I think that's true. And what I've been thinking this whole time is there isn't a ground level for security for anyone. So if they pick the Kev, that's like pretty decent, because I'm used to talking to like middle and smaller, large size orgs that are like, it's fine, it works. Yeah. And that's like what I've talked about with aerospace people too. Like everybody's kind of mad that nobody thought about security for 30 years or something. And now we're like, whoopsies, now we can destroy the universe by accidentally making satellites fly.
Then you get into that cycle. It's like, well, legacy technology all over OT.
But that's why we should break it.
We haven't done security in 30 years, and it would break everything if we started now. So we're just going to continue not doing security because everything, right, is on fire. So no, these are tough problems. It's like I had that one lady, she just got a CISO position at a very large company, and I went down and visited her down in Tennessee, and we did a security assessment of all of their apps, and they had a ton of apps that were access data. You remember an access you could publish a web page that had the Access app, quote unquote, that you created. They had a bunch of mission critical web apps that were generated access databases. And we found thousands of critical vulnerabilities, and she cleared the room and she's like, what do I do? And I'm like, here's what you do. You stay here for a year, go someplace else. The only way that this gets fixed is if it all gets burned to the ground. And I just met your developers. That ain't happening. And that's exactly what she did. I mean, there's some times where you're just like, a purging fire would be a good thing in some organizations, right? And I think that we're getting into a situation where there's a lot of organizations that are doing things really, 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 really well, and not everything is moving in that positive direction all the time. There's a bunch of organizations that are still doing horrible.
Mm. So I have
Once
one.
again, BHIS, we can convince your CISOs to quit.
Put that on a shirt.
Yeah, put that on a shirt and wear it at a conference.
Yeah.
So normally we have a bunch of like breach stories. I did want to bring up just one breach story that I thought was somewhat interesting, mainly from the person and the size. So supposedly there was a massive China data leak of 10 petabytes of weapons testing data.
Oh,
so,
good.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is that we normally don't see like the Chinese government usually getting breached, right? Or at least I just don't see it very often. I'm sure it's happened before. But 10 petabytes? And they're like offering to sell it on Telegram? I'm like, where are you even storing that? We had the same problem. Who's doing this? Like, I think they're just making up numbers. This is like whose line is it?
That's got to be a made up number at that point.
Yes.
I bet $10 that this is gonna end up on like World of Tanks or
yes. No, it's War of Thunder or something.
War of Thunder.
Ah, there you
War
go.
Thunder.
That's where you go for all your military secrets. Don't ask me how I know.
Man, you think security geeks are horrible to be around when they're arguing with each other? Those forums are awful.
Oh yeah, I bet.
You know, what is the range of this particular like vehicle? It's like, and they all fight to the death on that stuff.
You got to cite your sources.
You definitely have to cite your sources. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. The not the actual breach of what equates to just it was from the National Supercomputing Center in China, but just the amount of data supposedly, much of it classified. I'm like, what? This is
I think
maybe
that's a pretty cool truck.
Yeah,
us not seeing like Chinese breaches is just news bias. I'm sure they happen all the time, and they get.
Yes, I know. You're also probably correct, right? We're looking for something.
I think the more important breach here that we didn't talk about was the Crunchyroll breach.
Oh yeah, what happened to Crunchyroll?
A lot of people.
The shiny hunters are taking on the weebs. That's all that's going on. Pretty much.
I've seen so many posts that they're like, I was right to pirate all my anime.
It was a third-party actor who had access to Crunchyroll's data, who is owned by Sony. I didn't know Sony owned Crunchyroll until this. Yeah, it's no clue, right? It sounds like InfoStealer, to tell you the truth. They got third party got breached. That third party had access to Crunchyroll. Then they extracted, I think it was only around 100 gigabytes worth of data, IP addresses, email address, credit cards, and PII. Right? Nothing too crazy.
Nothing too sensitive. But if you had your credit monitoring company, you'd be getting paid right now.
They definitely know I watched only all of Attack on Titan now, as well as I still need to catch up on Demon
all
Hunter.
of your viewing history for the world.
I got a question, like Attack on Titan and One Piece, like do you ever like say, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch this, and you realize they're into thousands of episodes, and it's
for One Piece, for what I will put this out there, for One Piece, there's actually a side one called One Pace that gets rid of all of the filler stories, and it cuts down on the episode count quite a lot. I will put that.
You need to send me a link for that.
It's like somebody being like, hey, you should read the books. Just all of them.
Read the manga. It's so much better.
Like Wheel of Time or anything. From,
you want to read the Horus Heresy real quick?
Oh my gosh, you just literally the only other.
I don't even know how people approach Warhammer 40,000, or was it 40K or whatever.
40K.
Like,
it's easy.
Like,
you just start reading them.
People are into this. How do I get started? And God forbid, do you talk to a fan? Once again, I'm sure the computer security people are like that. You know, like, how should I get started in computer security? Well, the first thing that you got to understand is that absolutely nothing's secure. Your lamp, your TV, your fridge, it's all spying on you, man. Just like, oh God, again, Thanksgiving
Yeah,
is ruined at John's
there have
house.
been so many poor bartenders at security conferences where they're like,
Oh
how do
my
I get
God,
started? And they're like,
Yes,
here's this
please.
awesome book on encryption and like all the mathematics and it's all written in like these algorithms and everything. The bartender is like,
Oh,
I hate this con. This is the worst.
this is horrible.
So years ago at Sands, we were doing a conference at the Wardman Park, and we were doing faculty shot Fridays where we'd all go down during lunch and we'd take a shot, which was a horrible idea. We did that like once and it was over. And we were talking to him, and the bartender was like, "So, what are you guys here for? What's the conference?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a computer security conference." And Bruce was like, because she's like, "I was stuck here during a snowstorm with a bunch of security professionals," and she went off on the Snowmageddon at conference, and it's like, "You people are awful." And I'm like, "That's great. That's us. We drink a lot." So apparently, we ran them out of liquor. So,
Yeah, and they had to sleep in the hotel that year because nobody could get in or out, and so some people were on shift basically for like a day and a half during the Snowmageddon ShmooCon. That was
one of my
good times.
favorite. Actually, that was one of my favorite memories ever in computer security. Like walking across that bridge when there's no cars and it's like a foot and a half of snow and nothing. That was so cool.
Yeah.
So, all right. I put one more in DarkSword iOS exploit chain. When Google does a write-up, they do a write-up. Holy crap.
was a
I
good
just put
one.
this in chat, and they're going through this entire toolkit that you can get specifically targeting iOS, and it has exploits in it for, like, what is it? Snapchat, I think, was one of them in here. There's all kinds. It's just this makes me cry with joy whenever I see this level of writing, kind of breaking down these particular kits and all the different aspects of it. But this particular exploit, they think it's associated with Russia. I find it interesting that they can't directly attribute it to any threat actor. But it's been used in Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Malaysia, and Ukraine. Um, I had seen some people talking about it saying, yeah, it looks like it's Russia. Other people think it might be an Israeli kit that's being used. But, basically going after iOS versions 18.4 to 18.7 has 6 different vulnerabilities to deploy a number of different malware families. The malware families are Ghost Blade, Ghost Knife, and Ghost Saber. It mirrors the Cortana iOS exploit kit as well, which was, I believe that one was confirmed as Russian, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But just a really nice write-up on this. And the delivery mechanisms, like I always kind of talk about the NSO group and how delivery mechanisms that we see in a lot of these nation state level boils down to utilizing ad delivery networks, and the complications of actually doing that are pretty substantial. But a really great article of how these work. And the thing that I keep coming back to, they have all these IOCs and stuff. Anybody monitoring their mobile devices? Like, I mean, do we have any logs that we're getting off them? Are we getting any endpoint protection on these devices? So we get all of this cool shit.
We installed iTunes on everyone's iPhones.
Intune.
And, is Intune.
iTunes. You put iTunes on there? Me too.
What's one of the first things I think I've always done when you get to a network is figure out what people's guest Wi-Fi is, and immediately take whatever that network is and do not alert on it. Because the amount of garbage when someone connects to that gets seen. There's no way. Like,
I put 3 EDRs on my iPhone. That's how you know it's secure.
That's how you keep up to date.
You're the most secure.
And you got
Actually,
those
that's
from
how
the
you
store.
run out of money.
This one looks good. It's got 5 stars and 4 reviews. I'm sure it's
well, I downloaded it off the App Store. It said it was good to go. Like it said, like secure your phone. I keep getting ads though. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's a really dark sword in its like icon.
What was it? You remember when AdBlock Plus got pulled?
Mm-hmm.
AdBlock Plus was it was proxying all the traffic through itself, and they could filter out ads globally, not just in your browser on your device, but all ads in any app. And Microsoft and Apple were like, no, not today, Satan. So I think it's very difficult for any application to get the level of visibility into a phone to do that level of security, just because of the way their security models are built.
Yeah. The phones overall are pretty locked down, even though there's definitely ways to abuse them. And
So are they though? I mean, that's one of the things that bothers me. It's like, yeah, the phones are pretty locked down. Yet we hear about these exploit kits. We hear
sure.
about companies that are doing it, and it's so locked. I think it's locked down so security researchers have a hard time like doing any security assessments in it.
Yeah.
But is it just like, no, it's locked down. Trust us, kids. It's fine. It's
I
not
think
like
a
a
lot of
general
that.
purpose computer where any kid with a dream who lives in Norway can start taking apart Apache, right? It's a little
Yeah.
bit, the barrier to entry is a little bit higher.
like when Hayden, have you ever seen mobile device logs?
Yeah, I've done some forensics on an iPhone before, and that's not a great
Forensics?
That's
time.
not the same.
Forensic?
Back
That's
up,
not
back
the
up.
same. That's not the same.
Well,
I
no,
mean,
it's not the
like,
same, but that was also pretty atrocious.
that is, yeah, right. Like I would say there's like no security on cell phones whatsoever, and that is like a ripe attack vector, right? Because there's everything that's on your computer is going to be stored on there,
No
and
way.
as well as access to MFA. So
Yeah, but I think the threat model is really, onesie twosie, right? Like you got to be a target. I think that to go all the way back to beginning of the show, talking about compromise via Intune, the only reason that's possible is because Intune is installed on every endpoint, and you pop the MDM and you just go own everything. At least with cell phones, like it's trench warfare, and they got to go, like they have to be interested in you as a person and what you have access to go get it, and then they're going to spend that, and then they might get caught, right? It's a really expensive, and it's more intel than cybercrime.
I don't think so because we've seen enough info stealer malware where everyone gets it, right? With different browsers. What if an info stealer malware targeted cell phones and then
Well,
custom saw that, right?
but they
Like,
do. And when we're looking at the cost, I actually somewhat disagree, right? If you're a nation state level adversary, right, and you're going after a particular organization, it becomes a lot easier like to target one of their systems administrators to gain access to their phone. That initial cost would be high as a per device calculation, but you can actually specifically target individuals that are high value targets off the gate. And that's some of the things that we've seen. Like I said, I keep talking about like NSO Group's capability of doing highly targeted malvertisements where you can identify a specific ad profile for a specific individual. You don't have to provide their name. So yeah, it's more expensive for exploiting per device, but I think with some of the targeting tools that are out there, you get that return on investment a lot faster because you can
Yep.
target those specific individuals.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the able to move faster, chain things better, you're able to make better use of it for get hashed. With AI and everything, just making things move quicker. You're seeing a lot of the low the low vulnerabilities getting chained together and getting exploited. So I think
Yeah.
And
But either way, kind of
Yeah.
getting back to the point in the logs though, Alex, we're
Yeah.
still just sitting in a cave, making shadow puppets on the wall. We don't have logs off of these devices. How can
We
we
don't.
make a determination one way or the other if we don't have visibility? And if we don't have visibility into a particular part, do we have security? And at BHIS, we've got a huge amount of pushback. It's going to happen one way or the other, folks. Where we are now, you're putting the security tools on your device, or you're going to run a dedicated BHIS device, and then we have the visibility that we need. And that is such a cultural shock, even for people in security, to say, "Wait a minute, I don't have full privacy on this." It's like, no, if you have corporate data on it, I need to have visibility into that, right? Either A, you're running one that I give you explicitly for this task, or I'm going to put some software that gives me the visibility that I need to be able to see what's going on. But we're
Yeah.
so caught up into like letting go of this binky shiny metal box that we have that we think is our universe, that people, I don't even think they want to have visibility into it. The vast
Yeah,
majority.
and it needs that shift away from the I'm not a target. Like I understand there's like that threat modeling. Don't be like sky is falling and everything. But it's just if we don't have those logs, we don't have that visibility. If we don't know, how are we saying like, hey, I'm not we're not targets. They're
Well,
not interested in me. It's like, well, okay,
and we haven't gotten into ads this time, Alex, which is weird because
yeah,
you're on the show and usually we go down that path. But the reason why they don't want us to have that visibility is because then we would have visibility into the amount of privacy violations that are
yeah,
happening on those devices. Because if I can hook at the kernel level, if I can hook and do full packet capture on what's going on and decrypt what's going on this device, then you're going to know just exactly how much data Alexa and Siri and all this shit is getting on you, right?
Exactly. That
And
it
nobody
will
wants
know
to see that.
a lot about you, and then when you're able to see those logs, everything that people have about you, then you go, hey, wait a minute, maybe I am part of this threat model, and maybe we do have to start worrying about it. Maybe we do have to loosen our grip on that security blanket.
ChatGPT is about to drop their ads. Everyone's about to start getting them.
No, really? I didn't see that. Why didn't we talk about that? Like,
Yeah.
They talk about that at the
next week.
Super Bowl,
Next
man.
week.
Yeah, they talked about
what
the
a
Super
great
Bowl.
time. I
They've been
loved
like
that.
hitting it hard. But yeah,
They had a meltdown on Twitter over that. That was so good.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
We'll
very
save that for
targeted.
next week. Hey, thank you everybody for coming. Let's bring out the crooked finger. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.